Hello? Oh, there we go. Hey guys, hope you're well. This holiday's going really well so far. I don't think I've had a day. I don't think I've worked harder my whole life. So basically, the story is I've been off for about. Well, I've been off since Friday night, and since then I've basically just worked on my app and done tons and tons of blogging, and I'm loving it. Yeah, it's really good. And today, the way that I left the app on the last live stream, it was okay, I suppose. It needs a lot of work. But I've basically just been hacking away at it for the past couple of days, up late last night, just on it. So it's going well. And I thought I would do a few things that might help or be of interest to people who are building apps just now. So sorry, I'm looking to the other side here. I use two screens. So basically, we'll go there. This is the kind of sketch that I had initially. I just thought I'd pull that up there. So this is just the kind of how much I've planned this application out. But sometimes it just helps to have a little sketch there, basic stuff. Right, so let's look at the how far the app's come along. My bank account has increased substantially, so I'm quite happy with 267 mil. That'll do just now. But basically, the couple of the objectives that I had last time were to. One was to create a dark theme, which I've not done yet. That's kind of today's thing. The other was to implement a kind of animated height on the balance screen, as it were. But I'll show you what I've done so far. So now the numbers animate, and if you look closely, you'll see the gradient animates as well. So I'll use the mouse here. So basically, it just randomly animates like that. It's quite cool just now. So these colors are going to be settable in the options. So that's what that looks like just now, and I'm just going to change that. Set up dummy accounts. Wow. I mean, these methods are going to stay here to haunt me forever. But basically, I'm just going to show you the nice little animation up to the top as well. Cool, so now. Oh! That's interesting. Oh, that's what that is. So professional. Did not copy and paste this at all, right? No one saw this. No one saw it at all. No one saw it. La 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 la. So this is just the dummy transaction array that I'm setting up here. Doesn't really matter. Okay. That didn't work. What have I done? Oh, it's the DRAN 48. Okay. There you go. Okay. Just give me a second. So I'm just going to create some more transactions here, right? Awesome. So basically, we're putting some more transactions into the accounts list. So you can see here that it animates up, and I can still swipe left and right. I might change the size of the text eventually, but essentially, it's nice and animated. Now, I learned quite a few things about constraint animations doing this, and for those of you who love interface builder, I'm just going to show you the storyboard. It's really, really simple just now. Most of this has been data driven. So basically, right, here's how I've done it. I realised I didn't show you this last time, so I'm going to go over this just now. Basically, I have this is the view, the container view that everything happens in. It's not actually a container view, it's a view which has a container view in it. So if you've used container views before, container views are really interesting in that they're kind of abstract. You don't have a container view class, but there is a container view here. You can see it. And it puts inside of itself whatever you want. So you can have like a page controller, or you could have a view controller, or a scroll view, or a collection view in there, and it means that you don't have to do it all in code. So I just thought I'd do that as part of the fun here. But behind that is the view that you can see that's blue there. That's the gradient view, so they're actually separate. So that's how that actually works. And this page controller just programmatically loads different views into it depending. And over here I have I have, I'll just change the color here. So this is the balance, you know, some temporary balance there you can see. So this just gets popped in there, and the constraints mean it looks nice. Okay, but the problem is that how do you, or that the problem was, how do you animate the height? You know, it's not a particularly difficult problem, but what's the best way of doing it, right? So basically, when I was looking around, the best way that I could figure out, or the simplest way, was to just animate a constraint programmatically. So I put a height constraint on this view, and I manipulated it. So you can check this out here. I've got a constraint here. I'll just see if I've got it. Yeah, so you can see I've got a height constraint outlet, so I can reference that in code. And all I did was is I used a delegate method, scroll view did scroll. Now I'm going to shout out to Fernando at work for this one, because he pointed me in the right direction of this about 2 months ago when we were talking about it, when this was a vague idea. And basically what I did was, rather than using another delegate, because the container is a few stages higher than the scroll view itself, a delegate's quite good if it's a parent or it's on the same level of the hierarchy. But I decided to use notification center so that it just posts this huge notification name up there. If you've worked with notifications before, the K at the start of a lot of the constants is the Hungarian word for constant, which begins with a K, I believe. So that's why you begin constants with K. So I just copied that there. So basically, right, the scroll view did scroll to the top, or the scroll view did scroll. I've said if the content, the offset of the content which you're given for free here inside scroll view did scroll, I just get that off of the scroll view. If the content's greater than 100, which I'm going to change, but if the scroll view is a certain height or percentage, I'm setting the actual global variable to it's adjusted, and I send a notification say make it smaller. Else, if it's needing to enlarge, then it gets bigger. It just posts a notification up there. Now, what's listening for this? This is the fun part, right? When you have notifications, you have something that posts it, and you have something that listens to it. And the cool thing is that notifications can be listened to by lots of different things simultaneously, whereas delegation is a one-to-one kind of relationship. So one-to-many versus one-to-one. So, just got to turn that volume off. So, basically, where are we? Yeah, so this listens to it. So how do you animate it? Now this is the thing that had me up to, like, I don't know, it's quite a simple thing, but it had me up to about 11:30 last night, trying to figure out why the constraint would not animate. And what happened was it would jump instantly and it wouldn't animate. If you're going to animate constraints, there's something you have to bear in mind, and this is a nice UI kit thing. Once you know it, when you don't know it, it's not the most obvious, which tends to be the case with a lot of UI kit things sometimes. Maybe that's just me, but UI view, animate with duration, right? Straightforward, built-in animation, and we have a little closure at the end, the animations we want to do. You change the constant of the height to whatever you want it to be. It should be more dynamic than magic numbers in here, but I will refactor this. How do you trigger the actual animation to happen smoothly? The key here is, number one, use layout if needed. Right now, okay, it is working here. So basically, you are saying that the constraints are now dirty, and on the next cycle, the views will be rearranged to match the new constraints that have been added. You can't just blast constraints in there. It's not advisable. So the documentation says call layout if needed, right? The trick though is not to just call layout if needed on the view that you want to manipulate. Okay, So if I want to change the height of this scroll view, the balance view, let's look at it. I can't just say, hey, this view, change the constant, and then layout if needed, because part of the layout process would override the animation. It would say, I don't care if you need to animate, I've been told to lay this out. Okay? What you have to do is call it SuperView and say, lay out your views if needed. And then it goes through them and says, do I have an animation? Oh yeah, I do. And it will lay it out in an animated fashion rather than just doing it automatically and instantly. So you would lose the smooth animation if you didn't call on this SuperView. So in this case, it was easier for me just to say self.superview, which isn't great. It should be specifically set. But again, this is half past 11 at night, and it's actually clearer looking at it this way than it is to have custom classes in there. So that means this class is quite small. It's just a view. It's the UI view. And if it's going to exist, it'll have a super view, right? So that's how that works. So the result is that you now have this animated view here, and you can even pull this here with the nice transitions. Now the funny thing is, what you don't see here is that these transactions are just fake ones just now. These are actually changing every time I swipe over here, right? Every time I swipe over here, these transactions are reloading, okay? And this is a bit I'm working on just now. So I believe this is getting called. So yeah, so it's getting called. The whole thing has been rewritten. Now I've got a data source that passes different data structure, the data structure and account and transactions at the top level into the child views, which is what you'd want. It's just not fully implemented. And so the aim with this app is that it should be coordinator driven, and it should use some sort of model view model. And that tends to be the kind of trend just now, in that it's a lot easier to maintain. Right now, it is absolutely not coordinator driven, because I'm putting it together just now, and I will refactor it. But that's the goal, is to make it coordinator driven. That's what I would do in a work app, basically. It would be expected to be done like that. Okay, so that should not be up there. This is great looking back on the stuff that I did the previous night. I'll put it down here. Extension. Okay. It's actually snowing outside right now. Wow. Okay, so the question is, where is the cell DQ? Okay. I'm just going to put a breakpoint on here. I'm just going to reload it. Hopefully we'll get some. Don't need this. Don't need this. Don't need this. So if you've worked with table views before, then you'll know all about the delegates. There we go. And data source. Okay, cool. Interesting. So accounts, 6 values, transaction equals that. Was dear. It's £217. Was dear, wasn't it? Dear is a Scottish word for expensive. You're learning lots here. Oh, and I've misspelled transaction. Okay, I'll leave it just now. So the question is, why is that not getting set? The amount. Okay, so PO printout Transaction dot amount. Let's see what I've got. So it's, oh yeah, okay, so we don't know if we've got an amount. Okay, so let's see, that's here. Okay, if let amount equals transaction dot amount, let's put that in there. See if that works here. Oh, so we're doing unwrapping here. I've kept some things optional because you don't know what data you're going to get down. The idea is going to be that the data comes down as JSON, and the app, these transactions and balance classes are all codable. So codable can literally just take it from JSON and blast it straight into classes and objects. Okay, cool. This has worked. So transaction cell. Cool. So I suspect what I've done is here is I wrote this cell ages ago, and I don't think I've got outlets. I don't have outlets. That's interesting. Okay. So what we'll do is make an outlet. Now you can. What have I done with the spaces here? This is weird. Is that 2 tabs? I don't know. So there's a bit of debate about should you make outlet variables weak and strong. I think now Apple recommend making them strong, but in almost all cases people still write them as weak because of the kind of retain cycle panic. So I'm just going to stick with that just now. I'm going to look into that more. I'm going to check that out. Check out if these should be strong. Keep them as weak just now. Weak var. And we're going to do, let's just say transaction amount. And this is going to be UI label. And it's an implicitly unwrapped optional. Spelling, weak var. Let's do transaction title, UI label. Let's just do that just now. Let's put a title first. Let's bring these up a bit. Cool. So basically, we want to say transaction. This Mac is really acting strange just now. Text, yep. Yes, it does. See, it's not predicting stuff very well. Cool, that's good. So now all we need now is to hook it up, right? So basically the no. Let's go back to the storyboard where all the fun happens. Stop the app running just now. Do we have a... Do I have a zip for this? I think I've got a nib for this. There we go. Cells recent table view cell. Is that what it was? Recent table view cell. It's like the worst name ever. That's not correct. That's funny. Cool, so there's lots of ways of doing this, but basically you can... Oh, it's not there. This is funny. Okay. I would have thought the class was in here. This might be why it's not working. Not even hooked up. Transaction title. Transaction amount. Okay, so the idea here is now is that these, I suppose, getting used to interface builder and getting used to outlets. If you're coming from like a web development background, it's really unusual to work with those at first. So but basically you need a way to connect what you're seeing visually in Interface Builder with code, you know. It's actually quite good once you used to it. So the question is, why is that not setting there? I wonder if it's because all of the... What is the amount? 487 pounds. Recent table view cell. Jump to definition. That's fine. Transaction amount dot text. So recent transaction cell. Transaction amount label. Nil. Interesting. That's interesting. Okay, sorry, just realised how quiet I went there. Forget I'm on stream sometimes. Okay, so basically the problem is that the transaction cell, its amount isn't being set. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to do this just now. Let's just test something a second. Dot. What? This is what happens when you look at code you haven't seen for ages. So I do have a summary title as a label, but it's not an outlet. I think I'm going to stick with these. Let's just rewrite this. Image view, we'll do that as well. And then we'll go back to the actual nib itself. Take that way. Take that way. So now okay, cool. This cell here. Summary amount, good. Summary image view. Summary subtitle. Summary title. Summary title. Strange naming convention. Good. Take these out. I wonder why I was still seeing those there. Okay, cool. Hello to the viewers. So excellent. So let me just check this here. Okay, so the funny thing is that you can see here that I've written a configure cell with a transaction, which makes sense. So all I need to do now is call that. So recent transaction cell dot configure cell with transaction. Oh, I need to I need to really change the spelling on that one. Okay, so I think there was a problem. Okay, value of optional recent transaction. Okay. Cool. So now we're passing in the transaction to the configure sell method. So hopefully that's going to work. Let's see. So it is looking good. It is looking good. It's funny how much work goes into. Okay, so it's working now. Good. So it's got no image, unfortunately, which is fine. So I think it was doing a switch on the image. So what I might do is put a default in there and just say it must have been receiving a. What's that called again? Recent. Oh gosh. Recent table view cell. Okay. Recent table view cell. I'm not sure what the image is that I've got in here. Let's see. Cache temp. That'll do. I think these are just temporary icons. I'll just make all these cache temp just now. So it's switching on the transaction type. When I wrote this, I had no idea what kind of. I mean, seriously, credit, debit. I've had no idea what the data models were. I was just making it up. So there we go. That's good. So now we've got random amounts coming in there, and that's interesting. Oh, that's because of the reload data. Oh, cool. Anyway, so it's amazing how much work goes into the little things. So I've just found a bug. That's good. Challenging bug. Ah, right, okay. So whenever the reload data happens, it's losing the offset. Okay, I'll come back to that one. Interesting. So cool. So basically, that's looking good. That's looking good. So essentially, I'm just going to show you how I did the animated gradient, just so I show you how I did this stuff, right? Because this is quite interesting. So, how do you work with gradients? Okay, I've written a protocol here. I did request it. So the gradient will change whenever a delegate method gets called, saying, you know, request style change, right? So I've got some constants here using a struct, which is interesting, not an enum. And basically, I hadn't done much work with gradients before, but basically these are quite interesting to work with. So basically you have, the problem with gradients is that when you're rendering them, they can render slightly out of position, and so something that really is going to help you is to remember, where is it? Is this definitely in here? Is it in background? So subviews, where is it? Nope. 2 seconds. Layout. Must have got rid of that. But essentially calling layout subviews will help you. Sometimes it doesn't look proper. Anyway, here's first of all, you have to have a gradient layer. So if you're doing any co-animation stuff, you're going to get used to using this. You give it a size, start color, end color. So that's the kind of the two colors you want to work with. And I used a little website called uigradients.com, I think it was, and it was really helpful. Just gave me some nice stuff. This is just temporary just now, but basically, start color and end color are your two colors, and then you put them in an array, and you tell it, you give it the colors to work with, and give it a start point and an end point. So you could have lots of different colors. If you look at the new IntelliJ stuff, the new JetBrains kind of brand, they've got some really cool gradients for all their logos, and you can see some great inspiring examples of how to use those, and you can do lots of stuff with it. But it was this start point and end point that I decided to mess with, and a really cool little randomizer in Swift is drand48. Now there is a proposal in the Swift Evolution project just now for a kind of inbuilt randomizer, which is interesting because I think it might actually go through. It's a fun one, but drand48 will basically give you anything between 0 and 1. So it's really convenient. So if you have 500 and you want a number between 0 and 500, not exceeding 500 and not going before 0, then you just do drand48 times 500. So in this case I just did up to 1 because the 1 represents the position between 0% and 100%. So it's just moving them around. And one of the things you get for free when you do it on the main thread with core animation is it animates it for you. So on here when I change account, it animates it for me. So I might mess with this and do a completion and chain things. I might do operations in there to chain completion events to do some cool animations and fade in the balance, etc. But basically I was just messing around with this stuff because it's really it's just creativity. This is just a bit of fun, and you know, you can get bogged down with all the stuff you should be doing and the APIs, etc. But this is purely me spending my holiday building this app. And it's great. I'm loving it so far. One thing I want to go over is how on earth do page controls work? I mean, seriously, sometimes the smallest things catch you out. And when I studied music, one of the things that we used to do was, well, one of the things you realise is that practice is focusing on your weaknesses. And people tend to avoid their weaknesses because of the feeling of weakness, and that's understandable. However, when you focus on your weaknesses and focus on the things you need to work on, you notice monumental improvements, dramatic improvements, more quickly, if that's what you want to do. And the kind of idea with building these apps, focusing around weaknesses, is that you quickly realise the gaps in your knowledge. Even in UIKit is an absolute beast. It has lots and lots of stuff going on. iOS is massive. And, you know, if you work in the same things all the time, you find yourself not really progressing a lot. And that's why I wanted to animate these page controls. I wanted to connect. How do you connect a scroll view with a page control? How do you do that? Do you use delegation? Do you use notification center? There's lots of ways of doing these things, and it was a fun chance to really experiment with those. But you quickly realise that how do you do that thing again? And you find yourself Googling it, and that's fine. But I think people who teach this should explain it easier because it's so difficult to sometimes just get to the thing you're trying to do. And essentially, the real basics of page controls, even starting with that before you even get into the fancy stuff, is that you have a delegate and a data source, just like most UIKit classes. And what does that actually mean? To make it really simple, essentially, the page control doesn't care what information it has to display. It doesn't care what views you want to display. It could be a video, it could be an animated thing that you've designed, it could be anything. It just says, if you're going to give me that stuff, I need you to give me stuff back from this method. When I call for that view, you need to give me that back. That's what a delegate is. It's basically something else is giving me this or handling this thing. I don't care how it's done. You do it. That's cool. So this view controller here is the delegate, or the data source for this is saying, hey, I'll provide you the views. But there's a couple of things tied up with that, and it's you have to initially give it a view to display, and you do that with set view controllers. So you set the initial view controller, and then you give it an array of view controllers. So there are, in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 balance view controllers getting passed in an array, and it's just saying view for index number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this balance comes up, and these are all different. So there's a bit of work going on behind the scenes to produce that, and then you can also tell it which color of dot you want, how to highlight that page control dot, whatever it is. And just getting familiar with that again, because it's not something you use a lot, page controls. Well, I've not used a lot of them before, not for a while anyway. And then I hooked these up with a delegate that's in charge of all these, and it connects them so that it can respond to events like that in an efficient way. There's a mix between delegation and notification center getting used depending on how far up they are. So that's it there. I just wanted to give you an update on the app. So it's looking good. I really want to implement the Dart theme and the login. The Firebase integration is kind of written-ish, but I need to go away and figure out how I'm going to send this data up and pull the data down. And the idea is every hour money is going to come in and notifications are going to appear. There's going to be facial login. There's going to be categories for force touch on the icon to have some options built in. And there's going to be a settings screen. That's the objective. So hopefully we'll get there. Anyway, I hope you got something from this. I know there's quite a lot of stuff I've talked about, and I've had coffee, so I'm allowed one a day just now. So I'm feeling it. But have a great day, and hopefully you can enjoy it. Take care. See you later.